Hey everyone, this is Savani Sis, and today we're going to talk about imagination. Now stay tuned to the end of the video because we're going to show you how imagination can instantly make you smile,
yes,
and make you feel joy.
Exactly.
So stay tuned. So first of all, what do we want to say, Kashmir, about imagination?
Well, imagination is your invisible superpower.
I'm going to give you a tiny bit of neuroscience. So your frontal lobe is part of your brain which gathers information from the rest of your brain, and the frontal lobe is the part of your brain which has the ability to imagine. So we are quite unique as animals in the animal kingdom that we can actually do that, right? Yeah. So imagination can be used both ways. You can use imagination to future think something, the worst case scenario, and you can imagine the whole thing happening and you can feel awful about it because that's what you're imagining. Or you can imagine something wonderful is going to happen, or imagine a wonderful future for yourself, and bring it to the present moment. So imagination can serve you, but it can also work the other way. So we're going to show you how imagination can actually make you feel so good. This is how powerful we are as human beings, that we have the power to use our imagination to make us feel really good.
Yes.
I'll tell you a little story. When I went to Greece, in Halkidiki, a nice island in Greece, and it was a 5-star resort, it was beautiful. I was sitting on a boat and we were just traveling to another island, yes, and I remember thinking, why don't I feel that happy? You'd think I'd be that happy if I was in a 5-star resort and the sun is shining and everything seems perfect outside of me, my environment is perfect, but yet I didn't feel that good. And I was thinking, what is wrong with me? Why am I all of a sudden acknowledging that I'm not feeling that good? And then I remember feeling so much joy sitting in my room with my eyes closed and going within and imagining a beautiful scenario of something that I wanted to happen. And I felt more joy then than I felt sitting on a boat and enjoying the scenery and being in a 5-star resort. So this is what imagination does, that you can feel good no matter where you are. You could be in your room, the world could be crashing outside of you, but you can use your imagination to make you feel really good despite what's going on outside of you. I'm sure, in fact, Viktor Frankl did this when he was in the concentration camps, that when he was tortured and he was put in a concentration camp and he was in such a dire situation, he was able to go within and find some level of peace or some level of way of coping just by going within and using his imagination. If he kept giving attention to what was going on outside of him, yes, oh my gosh, he would be gripped in fear, in anxiety, in depression, in maybe even suicidal, you know, in the way that that situation was.
And also, you know, I don't know if you guys have watched the Paris Hilton documentary on Netflix. When she was a child, she had to be put in solitary confinement. She went to this camp that her mum sent her to, and she shares this story in the documentary. And she was put in like a dark cell, and it was just her alone and surrounded by 4 dark walls. And she was terrified initially, but then she said, all I had was my mind to imagine what I wanted to do when I get out of here. So she thought about all of her goals, all of her dreams. She started to visualize, create, dream, and she started to feel good. And of course she went on to actually achieving those things as soon as she had left that horrific situation. So that was quite inspiring to hear that she used the power of her imagination to create what she wanted in her life.
And give that example, Kashmir, about the check in the mail. That's a really good one.
Oh yes, the check in the mail. So let's say you're sitting in your room, you're broke, you're depressed, you have bills to pay, you have financial trouble and struggles, and that's what's stressing you out right now, okay? And what if I said to you that we pulled your name out of a hat, and recently in a raffle you've actually won a check for £100,000 or dollars or euros or whatever currency you're in. all of a sudden you'd be like, oh my God, you would start to feel happy just by receiving such information. And then we say this £100,000 check is coming to you in the mail, FedEx Express. It's being delivered to you, but you can't cash it in 24 months. Oh, you may feel a bit disappointed, but the fact that we said that you want £100,000 check is definitely going to make you smile and make you feel better. But nothing changed outside of you. It was simply receiving this information that you're going to get a check and that you've guaranteed won a prize and guaranteed you're going to be able to cash it out in 24 months. That gives you a feeling of happiness inside, right? So you can create scenarios like that with your imagination and actually feel the emotion as if you're definitely having it. And then you feel as if you've already got it. And this is actually how you manifest things in your reality.
Yeah, and that was what my next point was going to be. You might think, what's the point imagining stuff if it's not going to be there, in the long run? But actually, the more you imagine something, the more you're firing and wiring neurons in your brain, and you actually start to get your brain to light up. And if you keep repeating that process, imagining maybe the same thing again and again and again, what happens is you start to become hardwired into thinking or believing that that's going to happen. And so when that happens, your body starts to act as if it's already happened. Yes. And that's when things can actually appear in your reality, in the 3D world. And so imagination is not a waste of time. Imagination is your power tool. It's your power tool, right? Yes. But the problem is we do use our imagination, but for the wrong reasons. We use our imagination to think of the worst case scenario of what's going to happen. Or sometimes, let's say if you were driving to work, you'll already imagine, oh, there's going to be loads of traffic on the road, I'm probably going to be late, and
negative goal setting.
Will I get my coffee on time, or oh, I have to speak to this customer first thing in the morning and it's probably going to go horribly wrong because it's one of the most difficult customers I've dealt with. And you'll use your imagination to think those type of scenarios. But what if you use your imagination to say, hey, I'm going to have the best journey ever going to work, I'm going to have the most wonderful customers, and I'm going to have the most wonderful experiences and conversations with them. Just imagine if you did that, then you would feel happier, regardless of whether that stuff's going to happen or not. You will feel happier, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing I wanted to say about imagination is, how do you use it? So before we go into the instantly how you can use your imagination and the actual exercise itself, we just want to say how you can use your imagination. So some people haven't developed their imagination. When we were young, we used to imagine all the time. But sometimes at school we used to be told, don't daydream, you're a daydreamer, your mind's drifting, you're not concentrating. So sometimes we were taught as we get older not to use our imagination in an indirect way. And also reading books helps to develop that imagination, that creative imagination. When you imagine, you want to be as creative as possible. And in order to do that, you've got to maybe do a little bit of research of what you want. So if you want to be very directed and specific with your imagination, so let's say you want to imagine wealth abundance, but you don't know what abundance looks like because you've never seen it, you've never seen pictures of it. You kind of maybe have some sort of idea in your head, but you've never actually seen what abundance looks like. You haven't even looked at a nice car or a yacht or a private jet or whatever it is that you'd like to have in your life. Then it's very hard to imagine those things because your frontal lobe will access what you already know in your brain. But if you haven't seen it and your subconscious mind hasn't seen it, then you won't know what it looks like. So you may want to do a little bit of research. What does it look to have abundance? What does it look like? What do abundant people think like? And how do abundant people feel like? And when you do that research, it just helps you to actually light up new neurons in the brain to start thinking in different ways. And that will help your imagination to become much more creative. And that's what you really want to do, is just become much more creative with what you're thinking. And when you do that, it just becomes more fun. It's less boring. If you imagine the same thing again and again, and it's a very simple scenario in your mind, then you're going to get bored at some point, and that's not going to bring you much joy or happiness. It might actually bring you a bit of frustration. So we're going to do a little exercise.
Yeah. I want to get into the exercise because it's powerful and it's effective and it's simple, and it will demonstrate the example that I told you about the £100,000 check and how it will make you smile. So It's the same kind of phenomenon in this exercise.
Yes. First I want you to, and this is going to be very much dependent on what makes you happy. Okay, so I can't tell you what makes you happy. It will depend on what makes you happy. But what you can do is just close your eyes and make sure you're sitting comfortably, and focus on your breath. Focus on it going in and out. In and out. And just be very relaxed with it. You are not forcing your breath. You are just focusing on it going into your lungs, filling up your chest and coming out again. And now I want you to think of a time in the past where someone made you really laugh, or a really funny scenario that happened to you, or a time in your life where you had the most wonderful, amazing, magical time and you felt on top of the world. If you don't want to go in your past, go in your future and imagine a wonderful, amazing scenario that would bring you so much joy. When you found that thing, just stay there with it. Think about the details of that event or that scenario. Think about what it was that made you laugh or made you smile. Think about that person, if there was a person involved, and how you felt about that person. And as you do this, feel it in your body. Feel the sensations that you have. You may be laughing, or you might just have a gentle smile on your face. Just be with it. Now you can open your eyes. It can be as easy as that. Something that will make you smile or laugh or make you feel good. And if you found it difficult or a bit challenging to find something, a good idea is to keep a little journal and you write down all the events and scenarios that brought you so much joy and happiness. We all have somewhere we can go to. You can also dream build. So you can think of a future that you'd love to have, a future that is easy and in flow, and you just feel so much joy. And you know that this could happen to you. You write that down, and once you have these things written down, you can from time to time imagine it in your mind. You can have pockets of time during the day when you do that. And what you'll find is that you will smile for no reason at all, because nothing's happening outside of you. It's all up in here. This is how powerful our imagination is.
Yes.
That's all we want to say for today. Stay tuned for some more videos.
Like if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.
Bye for now.